welcome to the channel. Today is my first serious attempt at doing a long format style video. Starting a couple different knives, but one in particular is I have this piece of 10 layer Damascus forge welded together. Part of that is going to be a steak knife for the wife, and my goal is to get this evened out to start with, so I have something to work with, and then I'm going to cut and restack it and get up to 30 layers, and so I have a little bit of a bold pattern. 10:30 in the morning, and it's already pretty hot here in Central Florida, you know, and then I'm going to be getting this thing going, so that'll make everything even hotter. So we'll see.
I think I have decided to try and do this in multiple parts, since it takes me a little bit to record video, get things together, and now throwing in video editing, it is just another aspect to take into account. So if you're interested in this stuff, check back and look for part 2 after this. The first part is going to be the continuation of getting this Damascus billet together. And here, all I'm doing is getting the forge warmed up, getting everything set up, and ready to go. Most of this equipment here that I'll be using for this portion of the video is mobile. I have it all on wheels so I can put it away, and it keeps the space in my garage open and clear. Even my anvil is on wheels. Here I'm just trying to set up some kiss blocks for the press to try to alleviate pressing down too far, so I can have a nice even and flat billet. The location of the kiss blocks was actually suggested by Coal Iron Works for their H-frame press, so that this way they are right where they want them, where they suggested, and they actually work very well, as you can see coming up here. This part of the video I'm just trying to use the kiss blocks for the first time and get everything flattened out, trying to get some of the ridges out from the drawing dies. And as time goes on, I'm sure the more that I use the new equipment, I'll find it easier and be able to do better things with it, and the speed increase. Not like the speed being increased by video editing software.
Yeah, one of the things I figured out my first attempt at doing a Damascus knife is the unevenness of the billet when you start smashing it down, and a lot of the material loss that I had when I used the surface grinder on the 2x72. That it's just a lot of material loss. So my goal with the kiss blocks is to be able to get things even before I go to the surface grinder. Where all I got to do is remove the forward scale and then just smooth it out. Less material loss, more control of the billet.
And right here you can start to see that the billet is starting to get a lot longer from it being drawn out. One of the things I may do is add a bracket to hold on to the kiss blocks. I ended up knocking one off there where they're currently mounted at, and that was kind of a pain to try to get set back up.
Got it pretty straight. I think it'll do. It's pretty flat as far as the surface. pretty sure I can work with any of that. I'm gonna leave it in the forge to cool down. All right, the Damascus billet is cooled off enough. This section here was a little thin, so you can still see ridges, but the rest of it with the new kiss blocks is pretty damn smooth on both sides. This should be pretty nice. So now I'm gonna do is clean up the forge scale off of it, and then probably flat grind it and get it ready for cut and restack.
Here I'm using an idea that I got from JP Bladeworks, where he has a dish attachment with carbide teeth on it to break off all of the forge scale. Works pretty good. And then I move over to the 2x72 to kind of finish getting everything cleaned up in preparation for the restack. And I'm only taking this up to 30 layers. My idea in my head is I think that will give a bolder pattern in the final piece. And again, I'm still learning as far as number of layer counts, stacking, restacking, getting everything cleaned up, even tack welded together correctly, and then heated and forge weld together. But I really enjoy learning new things, and to me this is all one big learning experience. So here I have the three pieces tack welded together, and I'm left a little notch on one end so I can grab it with the tongs. I'm going to stick it in this bucket and spray it with some WD-40 to get in between the layers. The billet is at the temperature, and I start with some light presses on it to set the forge welds. I do this 3 different times to ensure that it's all good. But then afterward, just keep heating and smashing it out. And then I start drawing it out with the drawing dies. And my goal is to try to get 2 more knives out of this. I end up only getting 1 in the end, but I'll have to figure out the calculations for that. The kiss blocks ended up helping me get it down to pretty damn close to 1/8 of an inch. And then I drew out a pattern onto the billet and cut it out on my wall-mounted portaband just to get a good head start. One of these times I will try to forge in the tip and the bevels on the anvil. You know, baby steps though. After the portaband, I take it over to the 2x72 and get the profile finalized and the shape of the blade, the handle area, the tip. I ended up losing, I think, some of the video due to battery running out. But I also took it to the surface grinder and ground it nice and flat. One thing I learned, if I'm going to do this with a blade and the surface grinder, is to leave a little bit more material on the back of the handle, the back of the tang, and the tip of the blade, because I noticed as I start the grind on a surface grinder, those 2 areas would get thinner, and it has to be from just how it rides on the sled in and out of the surface grinder. And if I do that and then cut in the tip and the back of the tang, it should be dead even across the entire billet. So I'll have to try that next time. And just little things to learn.
All right, here is the steak knife. It is after being flat ground. The camera lost battery power, so I didn't get a lot of the grinding, if any at all. So next up is I'm going to mark a couple pinholes, get those drilled. Everything is looking really good and solid on this.
And here, for full tang knives, I don't necessarily do anything too fancy. I just figure out where I want the front of the handle, and then the first pin and the last pin. And if I'm doing a third pin, just put it in a dead center. And I just grab a line down it for the cross section of where I want the pins, and then just use a automatic center punch to dimple it. So move over to the drill press, and the first thing that I do is that I get the pinholes drilled through the tang. I've seen a lot of guys where they will not clamp their blade down, but I've never had great luck with that, so I have this nice cheap Harbor Freight drill press vise I just clamp it down with, just to make sure nothing grabs and spins around, because with my luck I'd probably hurt myself. That little clamp works pretty good when it comes to handles too, because it works like a vise grip and you can just adjust it. After I get the pinholes drilled, I move on to drilling in some epoxy grab weight reduction holes, whichever you want to call them, just randomly through the tang of the knife. After that's done, I use a countersink to deburr all the holes to try to keep all the sharp edges off, make it nice and smooth. More places for epoxy to stick. Next up, I mark the center line so I can start grinding in the bevels before heat treating. I picked up a new center scribe tool that I'm still generally trying to learn how to use. And then here I am attaching my very cheap homemade file grinding tool. All it is some hardened 1084 ground nice and flat on both sides, and just figuring out where I want the plunge line to be and attaching it. Now it is back over to the grinder to start grinding in the bevels. And with the file guide on there, I quickly feel like that the tool rest is in the way, so I take that off and I move to freehand grinding. I've only recently learned with the better belt sander to use the push stick method, which I do like very much. It works very well. But with the file guide on, it doesn't work all that great. So this one is pretty much the first one that I have freehand ground in the bevels. I've done a couple partial bevels freehand, but it ended up working out very good, very easy to use with the file guide. Now that that is all done and I get the blade cleaned up with all the layout fluid on it, I move over to the heat treat oven and I get that going. The first cycle I did to 1650 for 10 minutes. The second was 1550 for 10 minutes. And the third was 1450 for 10 minutes. And after each one of those was done, I pulled the blade out and let it air cool. And then I heated it back up to 1475 for 5 minutes, and then quenched in Parks 50. And afterwards, I temper the blade at 390 for 2 hours. Thank you for watching part 1. Keep an eye out for part 2. If you did watch this, I greatly appreciate it. And if you have any comments, constructive criticism, please put them in the comments. I'll take a look at them, and it would be nice to collaborate with others. See ya.